Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. It is Sat Chat time. How are you doing? I hope you're having a great weekend. I have no list. I have no notes. I'm winging it. Nothing really has popped up this week that I'm like, oh, I gotta chat about that. So, we'll just see how it goes. I think it'll go pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good today. I finished up these earrings this morning and they are crochet. And I don't know what it is about crochet, but I swear there are some muscles that you'll only use when you crochet because this muscle right here, I don't even know what this muscle is, but I swear it's only activated when you are crocheting something tiny. And I did these earrings with craft thread, which is very similar to embroidery floss. It comes in little skeins like that, but instead of it being individual strands you can pull apart, like if you cross stitch, I guess you pull apart the strands and use like maybe one or two. I think there's like 6 maybe, I don't know, don't quote me on that. But anyways, craft thread is like plied together, kind of like yarn, so it's a little bit easier to crochet with, especially when you're doing these dainty little things. So I decided this week that I'm going to crochet myself some heart earrings for Valentine's Day, and I did, and it took a lot longer than I thought it would. And I'm telling you, if you are rusty on crochet, plan to crochet a few of them so that you can take your 2 that are the closest in size and make them. So I crocheted these. I just used a basic heart pattern, which is you make a magic ring and then you chain 2 and then you do 3 triple crochets or treble crochets, American treble crochets. Then you do 3 double crochets, then you chain 1, then you treble crochet. And you're doing all this into the magic ring, and then you chain 1 and then you reverse it. You do 3 double crochets, 3 triple crochets, chain 2 and slip stitch into the middle. And then I did a chain of like 8 stitches, and I just put that onto a ear hook. And I was a little, my knot was a little sus, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. And I had a feeling it was going to twist on me, so I took a little hot glue and I glued a little one of these jobbies here, one of these little waffle flower embellishments onto the top. And I just took some like narrow ribbon, the kind with a little picot edge. I love red and aqua together. And then I just tied a little bow on there. And a little tip for when you're tying a bow, some people will use a fork and do the bows that way, and that would be fine. Like make a little fork bow and then like glue it on or something. But what I did was I tied just a little ribbon bow on there as tiny as I could with my fingers. You could use tweezers and probably get a little bit smaller, but if you tie it on upside down, like you have the heart pointing away from you when you tie it on, I find that it gives you a better looking bow. You see that? I'm going to post a picture of this. It's probably already up on my Instagram page, and I'll put the pattern in it, and I'll try to remember to post that photo also on my blog post today for this video, so that you can see the earring. I took some close-up photos of them too. I think they're super cute. I have no idea how long they will last, but I just thought this would just be a really fun little thing to make for yourself to wear for Valentine's Day, or maybe a gift for your friends for Galentine's. I love Valentine's Day. I always have. Even when I was a chunky little kid who really didn't have very many friends, I loved Valentine's Day. I loved decorating the we make the shoebox mailboxes that would go on our desks, and we'd bring in Valentines for all of our friends. My mom used to crochet hearts. She would crochet something for every holiday. She would do like a shamrock for Shamrock Day. She'd do a shamrock for, what's that holiday? St. Patrick's Day. And she would do pumpkins for Halloween and little Santa hats for Christmas and hearts for Valentine's Day. And they have a little safety pin on the back and you could pin them on your clothes. Plus, I always loved making Valentine's when my kids were little. Oh my word, and if you look back on my older blog posts, if you just search Valentine's, like classroom Valentines, you will find tons of ideas of just little Valentines that we would make, me and the kids would make for their classrooms. And it was always just so much fun to make them and to give them out. And then you'd go home, you have your box of Valentines to look through, and some would have stickers and some would have like lollipops. But a lot of them were just like, the cheap, Valentines from the drugstore with like Scooby-Doo, or I guess back in the day it would have been like, Scooby-Doo and stuff like that. This would be SpongeBob and Powerpuff and all that, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, all that stuff for the more modern kids, I guess. I don't know. But I always loved it. I loved making Valentines. I loved getting the glitter out, and I still do. I wanted to do a big like Galentine's live stream last week or the week before and make up a bunch of cards to send to my friends, but I never got my act together enough to do that. I think it was because I also got a new webcam, and I just I didn't want to do it until I got the new webcam because the old webcam was not working with my new computer because I have Windows 11 and it's incompatible. But the new one's working, but now I kind of ran out of time. And then I was like, well, if I do that, then it'll ruin the surprise if anybody sees them that I'm going to mail them to. And I don't know. I just kind of flaked out, to be honest. But I did get out my little crochet threads and my little tiny little hooks and made some little tiny hearts for earrings. I think it actually would be much more fun to make this out of regular yarn and to make some bigger hearts and to make little garlands or banners or something with them because it's fun. It's fun to crochet. I saw a pattern for a granny square heart and I'm like, ooh, that would be really cute. And I bet they would work up really fast because you've got so much holes. You know, it's not all dense yarn. And sometimes all you just want to do, I've been feeling kind of anxious this week. So, I mean, I'm in a really good mood right now, but this week, I don't know, I've been hit by these waves of anxiety, as I often do this time of year. I mean, if you've been watching Sat Chat, by the way, this is Sat Chat. Every once in a while, I get a comment, what is this video? What is this? This isn't painting, this isn't crafting. So I always feel bad when somebody who is new to the channel lands on a Sat Chat because you must be completely confused. Like, what is this woman talking about? Why is there no project? Why is there no crafting? Sat Chat is just like the weekly wrap up. We just get together and chat, and in the comments below you'll see the most beautiful conversations spring forth from the community. Yeah, so I was feeling kind of anxious, and I think I'm drawn to projects like that when I'm feeling kind of stressed out, and it's like sometimes there's nothing better than just to put on some old episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and just get your crochet on. I know it seems very juxtaposed. You're watching a vampire show while you're doing something very, like, I don't know, prissy and old-timey, but it's a great combination. Get a glass of wine or a glass of tea or a cup of tea or whatever you want to drink, and it's just very calming. I learned how to crochet when I was pregnant with my first child. I don't know, I kind of wanted to, but I was never one of the, like, sit still for a very long type of person. And I was like about 38 weeks along, and my doctor's like, okay, you need to stay off the treadmill, you need to relax, you need to sit down, you need to, you know, calm down a bit and wait for this baby to come. Because I guess, like, I had like low fluid, amniotic fluid or something. And he's like, you need to just, you know, you need to slow your roll, lady. You need to calm the F down for a while and just wait for this baby to arrive. And so I taught myself how to knit and crochet. And for crocheting, my husband had got me this kit, like, I probably had mentioned that I'd like to learn how to crochet at some point. And he's very attuned and very, he notices things. He's very perceptive. And so he bought me a how to crochet kit, which I never opened. I had it for, it was probably years prior that I mentioned I want to learn how to crochet. And so that was sitting in the hoard of supplies. And then also I picked up this book at this bookstore, and it was called Kids Knitting. And it's like, I'd always wanted to learn how to knit. My mother tried to teach me, but I just, I don't know, it just wasn't clicking. And I'm like, well, this book is to teach children how to knit. If it can teach kids how to knit, then I certainly will be able to glean the information that I need to glean from this. So between the two, I taught myself how to knit and crochet, and I vividly remember, because I got kind of obsessed with knitting and crocheting. And I remember it being in labor, but I wasn't, like, ready to deliver yet. And then, so the doctor sent me home, and he sent me home like an Ambien, and he goes, take this, sleep, and come back in the morning and you'll be ready. And so I remember I took an Ambien, and which is a sleeping pill, if you don't know. And I woke up, I was dreaming about knitting, and I would just, like, every contraction, I would wake up and then fall right back asleep and dreaming about knitting. Wake up, you know, every contraction. It was wild, man. It was crazy. But he was right. When I came in, I went in the next day, and, like, you know, within 15 minutes, baby was out. You know, it was pretty crazy. With the twins, they scheduled it because I was 38 and a half weeks, 39 weeks. I don't know. I was 38 and a half weeks, and I guess they say 36 weeks is to term with twins, and so they didn't want to have a surprise delivery, and one was upside down. I'm like, yeah, I'm not down with both babies are coming out of the same hole. That's all I care about. TMI, I know. So let's schedule that C-section. I've had the natural birth experience. I'm good. I'm glad I experienced that, but yeah, I'm not delivering a baby and then having a C-section. No, we'll be one and done. So yeah, there's my birth story. Both birth stories in the first 9 minutes of this Sat Chat. This is what happens when I don't have a list of topics to discuss. Oh, the tomato project is available for signing up over on michaels.com/classes. I will actually put the direct link in the video description, because if you're on a phone, I found if it's not like within the next couple of weeks, then the class won't show up. It doesn't go so far back on the phone. So I will put if you're watching this on the phone and you want to sign up, I'm going to put a direct link. It'll take you right there. The class is free. If you have a minute or two and you wouldn't mind leaving a review, I would love it. It would just help people kind of know what to expect if they sign up for one of my classes. We're using the set of 12 Derwent Light Fast pencils because I wanted to use a smaller set. Generally, I'll just kind of pick out, I'll be just grabbing the colors I want to use, and I tend to only use a few pencils per project, like no more than 12. But they could be from any set. I don't know. They could be from anything, but Michaels does not sell open stock pencils, so you'd have to get the biggest set, and that's really expensive. So I wanted to have something that was a little bit more accessible. Of course, you can follow along with whatever color pencils you have. I would recommend not a water-soluble pencil though for this, just a standard wax-based color pencil. The nice thing about working with a limited supply of a higher quality product is that it doesn't, like, if you compare the cost of like a set of 120 budget pencils versus a set of 12 professional high-end pencils, they're going to be about the same in price, but because you're using a much more pigmented pencil, you'll find that you can layer more, it doesn't clog the tooth of the paper. Of course, with a budget set, you'd have all those other colors to fill in, so you wouldn't really have to mix and layer, but it's just something to think about if you have, like, say you've got $40 and you want to buy some colored pencils. If you're thinking about, do I want to get a budget set and get more colors, or do I want to get a smaller tin of a more professional line or a more legacy brand, which will have more pigment in it? You know, it's just, you can spend that $40 a myriad different ways, and you know, one way may suit one person better, and another way may suit another person better. For instance, if you're a card maker or you're an adult coloring book enthusiast, and you're probably not going to be putting more than a couple layers down on a paper because the paper's smooth, you're not worried about it fading because it's going to be closed in a book or it's going to be mailed off and not kept forever and ever, then the budget pencils would probably work a lot better for you, because in a tiny stamped image or coloring spot, you might not have enough like space to be mixing and layering, so it might be better to have a larger variety of colors. But if you are doing artwork or you're maybe using it as mixed media, you want to add it onto a painting and you want to make sure that painting's not going to fade, you would be better suited to buy a smaller amount of the colors that you're going to use from a better line. So there's no good or bad. There's definitely one product might be perfect for one person, but not for another person. That's why there's so many products. But I thought it'd be good to do a limited supply. That way, if somebody was curious about that line of pencils but didn't want to go whole hog, they could get started with a smaller set and see what they thought. That's how I got started with Derwent Light Fast, because those suckers were pricey. I bought that at a big box store. The regular price was like $30-something, and there was a 50% off coupon, and I used that, and it was still kind of pricey. I'm like, it was still like $16 for 12 pencils, but I got a chance to use them on a few projects, see if I really liked them before I invested. And I still waited for a sale on getting the 72 set. I waited until I saw it, the 100 tin came out, so then the 72 sets got cheaper. So then I bought a 72 set on Amazon, actually, and they came fine. There was no damage with the set at all. And then Blick had a sale, and they had all the Light Fast pencils for like $2 a piece, and I was like, oh my word. So I bought all the other colors I didn't have. I probably should have grabbed a few backups for the colors that I use the most, but I didn't, because they're like $5 at Blick now a piece. So they're an expensive pencil. I do think they're worth it. They are a little firm for my liking. As you know, crochet I was building my biceps up, or no, my forearms, I don't know what those are called. I was building those muscles up with my crochet. So you know that my colored pencil with hard leads are not, if I did a lot of coloring with hard leads, I probably would have some Gaston, like Popeye forearms, but I do not. So I generally will use a softer pencil when it's just, coloring for fun, doing a stamped card, doing something that's going to be in a sketchbook. But if I'm going to do something that may need to be hung up on the wall, that I might want to sell, that I might want to give away, then I'll want to use something that I know is going to be a little bit more light fast. Oh, I also posted the viewer request video yesterday on how to iron a watercolor painting. I had mentioned it, actually it was in the last Michael's class, I'd mentioned that don't worry if your paper, because we didn't tape down our paper, and I'm like, you know, don't worry if your paper warps a bit, you can iron it. And people were like, what? What? You're gonna iron your painting? That doesn't sound right. Do a tutorial, please. And so I'm like, oh, that's actually a good idea. It's very easy. I didn't really think much of it, but occasionally I do iron a watercolor if it's like really warped, because sometimes if you try to mat something when it's really warped, it'll want to push it away from the mat, and you'll see like a little gap between the painting and the mat. You'll see that that little bit of warping, and it's a very easy fix. And I did post a very quick tutorial on that yesterday if you want to check that out. Like I said in the video, do it at your own risk. I would test on a scrap first if you're worried. And obviously you want to do that before you add any mixed media to a painting, and this is for watercolor. I wouldn't do it for acrylic because acrylics are plastic, you can melt that. I guess if you had a really warped acrylic paper that you absolutely needed to try to flatten, I think what I would actually recommend would be to mist, very lightly mist the back of the paper with some water. I'd put it on like a big cutting mat, then I would put maybe another cutting mat on top, or maybe a piece of like a trash bag or something, and then I would weight it down, and you're just going to have to let it dry, and it's going to take a while because you'd have a sandwich between you know, a couple things that aren't too porous. But that would probably be weighted under some books and stuff. That would probably be a good option. But yeah, you could also try ironing it on a silicone surface if you're using acrylic so it doesn't stick to the surface. But mainly this is a hack for watercolor. I think if you're using acrylics for something you'd want to hang, you'd probably be working on a canvas or canvas panel, so it really wouldn't be that, you wouldn't really have much call for that. But yeah, I would do it before I added any mixed media like colored pencils. I actually had a little colored pencils on this when I went to iron it, and it was fine. It didn't transfer at all because it wasn't a lot. But I wasn't really thinking of ironing this when I did that. Now this painting, I will have a full-length video for this on YouTube next week on Wednesday. And the reason I painted this, and I was just kind of like, I think I want to paint some rocks. I'm not going to do anything too crazy, too in-depth, because I didn't know if the paper was any good. So this is Fabriano Uno rough paper, and which actually I would say is very similar to this the texture of an Arches cold press. Maybe a little bit rougher, not as rough as an Arches rough. But anyway, back in the day, this was probably around 1999, 2000, maybe 2001. It was early. It was late 90s, early 2000s. I'm thinking it might have been actually. Gosh, I'm thinking it was before I had Jackson. He's 21 now. I think it was before I had him. I still had my studio downtown, and when I would find a good deal on like 100% cotton watercolor paper, watercolors, tube watercolors, anything like that, I would stock up because I taught classes and I did a lot of my own work, and I wanted to keep the cost down, because I mean, I've never sold my artwork for like really high amounts of money. So I tried to, you know, get the quality without paying a huge amount of money. Anyway, I don't know where, I think it might have been Art Supply Warehouse, which I don't know if they're still in business. There is a company called Art Supply Warehouse in California, which is a store, and you can mail order. But there used to be this website, and I think it was owned by the same people that own Jerry's Artorama, called Artist Supply Warehouse. And I used to order almost all my stuff from there. And they would have incredible prices. They were cheaper than Jerry's Artorama, and but it was mostly all bulk stuff, and I would order a lot of my supplies there. And I was able to get a ream of 25 sheets of Arches, and I got regular and rough, and maybe even extra white, cold press. I mean, not regular. And I think I might have gotten the extra white, and then I got Fabriano. I got soft press, cold press, and rough, I think, or maybe just soft press and rough of the Fabriano Uno paper, and then they discontinued it, or they said I didn't know if they discontinued it or just renamed it under the Artistico, because I remember seeing ads at the time, and the ads were interesting because it's like the number one, the new Uno or something, and they'd have this person holding up this huge sheet, like an imperial sheet of the paper, and you just see their kind of like their hands and their legs like under the paper. I don't know, it was I remember the ad, so I guess it was pretty effective advertising. And I used to order a lot of stuff from art magazines, especially like when they would have a new brand would come out. I think I maybe ordered a sample pack from the magazine, the Artist magazine or something, or Watercolor magazine, and then I ordered reams of it because it was like cheap. It was like $2 a sheet or something, maybe even less. I don't know. It was a great deal. So anyway, what a long story. In my, like, I'm feeling anxious, I need to do kind of like cozy crafts, I was like, oh, I also want to make some sketchbooks, and I came across, I was cleaning out the filing cabinet because it's tax season, and this is probably where the root of my anxiety is stemming from. I'm always anxious at tax season. I needed a file folder to start this year's receipt folder, because when I buy stuff for the business, I keep the receipt and I write it off at the end of the year, or the next year for the years. And I didn't have any file folders. I'm like, what the heck? I have no file folders? Doesn't it seem like you buy a box of file folders and then you never run out? It's like file folders for years. Anyway, I didn't have any file folders, so I was looking in my filing cabinet to see if I had a stray folder that I could steal for my receipts, for my 2024 receipts, and I found all these file folders of watercolor paper that I forgot that I had torn down. So when I would buy my huge sheets of watercolor paper, which are 22 inches by 30 inches, they would be they come in these huge bags or huge boxes, and I don't want to store papers in my basement, and that's where the room of hoard is, on that side of the wall. It's all my art supply storage except for large sheets of watercolor paper. For the large sheets of watercolor paper, I stored them under my bed, and I had a student once who, at a yard sale, he found me this box, and it was 24 by 36, this big box, and he goes, I bought this, I think it belonged to an artist, and I thought, watercolor paper. And he gave it to me. I'm like, oh my word, thank you. That is such a great gift. And that's where I store my watercolor paper. Now, to be honest, I've outgrown that box. That box is about that thick. So I have that plus a stack, but it's under my bed, controlled conditions. I believe that art supplies and paper especially would like to live in conditions where you are comfortable. And the room of hoard fluctuates from about 68 degrees in the summer to about 52 degrees in the winter. So there is fluctuation. There's also a little bit of humidity fluctuation. Not too bad, though. I do run a dehumidifier in the summer, but there's definitely temperature fluctuations. So I was like, ooh, I wonder if this paper is good. So, but before I wondered that, I actually made a sketchbook. I used, because I generally would tear that paper down into 8 sheets, or just random sizes, but small enough to fit in an 8.5 by 11 file folder. And so I was coming across all these like 8 sheets of watercolor paper. It's like, why am I tearing down watercolor paper to make these sketchbooks? Because I'm making sketchbooks every couple of weeks to make sure that I've got it, like, the muscle memory down, because I'll be teaching sketchbook making at the or making a Coptic stitch sketchbook during the France retreat, the Paint Your Vacation retreat. That's the first thing we're going to do. And so it's like, I want to just make sure I've got that muscle memory down, like I don't have to stop and think. You know, it's kind of like, I can't tell you how to knit something. I can't tell you how to tie a certain knot. It's like, I got to do it, because, like, you know, you build that muscle memory. And I just want to, like, know the sketchbook binding like the back of my hand without having to, you know, without having to double check my notes or anything. So I'm making sure I make them. So yeah, I've been giving out sketchbooks for presents and stuff for Christmas, and it's just like, yeah, sketchbooks for days, friends. But they are the best sketchbooks, man. The ones you make yourself, or the ones that somebody hand makes you, you have the perfect paper. They fold flat. They're just so nice. So anyway, I made this sketchbook, and it has like, I think I used 6 1/8 sheets of Fabriano Uno. I used 8 sheets of Nunjabi handmade paper from India, 100% cotton too, and I used 2 1/8 sheets of another paper that's discontinued. It was called Aquarius, by Strathmore Aquarius paper, and it's a hybrid synthetic cotton paper, and it's pretty thin, but it doesn't warp. It's really crazy because of the plastic that's in it. I'm like, oh, and that's really smooth, so I have that in between those really rough papers. So I thought, well, if I'm using that as my landscape book this summer, then I'll have a couple, like, smooth pages if I find some beautiful botanicals that I want to do in the middle. Anyway, but then I was like, what if that paper's all garbage? So I'm like, I'm going to do a painting on it and see how the sizing is held up. And the sizing is pristine. And it's been living in my basement. I was just so happy with that. Look how nice and flat it is, because I ironed it. So yep, lots of getting lots of mileage out of that little project. I'll tell you that right now. So the ironing video is up, and you will see the painting video next week. Speaking of other projects, let's see. I'll use my camera. Oh yeah, it's nice and loose. So I don't know if you can you see those 2 tall paintings right there? Those are some palette knife paintings that I'm working on for a critique club. I started them And if you look above the, oh, you know what, you can't see it, let me move this. Oh gosh, oh no, they're sticking together. Oh, there, you can have a closer look at that little palette, one of the palette knife paintings. They're going to go on either side of the mirror over my mantle. But up there, my pan pastels, I have them stored in a makeup, in like a eyeshadow palette, like little organizer that I got for $2 at Ocean State Job Lot. And it's been sitting in my shelf of like unused, unloved, misfit organization solutions. But then it just kind of hit me earlier this week. It's like I was overwhelmed. Oh, new Saturday, same old problems. Lindsay was overwhelmed with something and riddled with anxiety. Is it February? Yes, it is. I had the pan pastels. I'm like, I want my pan pastels handy. I want my favorites handy so I can use my favorites this year. And I had them stacked in the little shelf that I had over there that I just panned around to. And I was like, this isn't working. And then I saw that and I'm like, oh, that will work great. I will use that little eyeshadow thing to keep all those pan pastels, and they're right next to my pastel drawers, and everything is peachy keen in my world. So sometimes you need to do that. You just need to kind of like wrap up some projects, clear them out, or even like just kind of face hard facts and be like, is this a reality Lindsay project that you have sitting on that shelf that's been sitting on that shelf for 6 months, or is it a reality Lindsay project that you're going to do, or is it a fantasy Lindsay project that you had great intentions but it just is not going to happen? And I had a couple of reviews. I filmed a couple of reviews so I could get those supplies out of there, which was great. One product I really liked and was a great value. The other one was a big stinkeroonie, and I wasn't mad that I bought the product to try because I was really curious about it, and I'm so glad I didn't pay full price for it, but it was just disappointing. And it was one of those things where it has such high reviews on Amazon, and I'm like, how? These are not great. So I think that, and the price dropped quite a bit even since I bought them, so I'm thinking that maybe they switched factories and went with a cheaper product, and all the reviews that are there are from like some old iteration of the product, and the new one is just not it. But anyway, those reviews will be coming out within the next month or two, and yeah, I started to make some space. And when you start to make some space in your area, I feel like you start to make some space in your mind and in your soul and in your heart, and then you can let the good stuff in. So yeah, so that's what I'm hoping for. I do feel a little bit freer. It's funny, like last winter around this time, I did a big palette knife painting of birch trees. I don't know if you remember, it was on the easel behind me for like the longest time. I was going to do a video of it, but honestly, and this is so vain, and I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but I did not like the way I looked. Like, I look heavy in this video and I'm not posting it. I was just so disgusted with myself. I'm like, I'm not posting that. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? You know, what a bad example that is to say, you know, like saying this right now. I mean, what a bad example that is. But then also, at least you know that everybody else suffers from the same insecurities that you may. And so I don't know, maybe I'll edit it one day and post it. Who knows? My hair was also red in that, so no continuity whatsoever. But anyway, I was also feeling kind of crappy, and then the palette knives come out. When Lindsay's anxious, the palette knives come out, and she starts doing some wild palette knife work, I guess. I don't know. This is just a random sat chat. I hope you found it useful. Yeah, I'll link everything up in the video description that I'm up to. I got an Alta new class starting on Monday. I'm doing the tech check for that in about an hour, so got to set up for that, and that's all for me today. Look at that, we're going to be ending it right as my camera's just about out of recording time. So thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye!